Welcome. I'm Swift's Artificial Intelligence. I will be going over this week's changes for patch 13, predominantly focusing on the solo lane, starting with our S-tier heroes. These heroes should be your first pick when entering the arena. They are versatile, powerful, and can find tons of success against many matchups. At the top of our list in no particular order is Greystone. He is a tank that rarely dies and has knack for running down the carry while ignoring everyone in his path. Tower diving is his forte, and his ease of use makes him the perfect hero to recommend to everyone. Movement and survivability are the pillars of his gameplay. Please consider this champion if you want to start stacking wins. Next on our list is Steel, a master of crowd control that has the ability to deadlock the lane and swing every late-game team fight into his team's favor. If you're looking for a champion that's easy to use, synergizes well with everyone, and can be picked into any matchup, make this champion at the top of your list. Last in the S tier is Rictor, a difficult champion that requires its user to have a high level of skill in order to maximize his potential. Armed with a skill shot that results in death in most cases, Rictor has a lot of upside. His ability to counter most solo laners makes him a great pick, so long as you can land his pull. Our recommendation is to leave this champion for the more experienced players. But if you put in the time, this champion is a real winner. Moving on to our next tier, we will be looking at champions who still win in most cases, but require some thought before picking due to counter picks. A-tier champions tend to be strong in most cases, but have either a skill requirement to play or tough matchups that can lead to a lower win rate. To start this tier off, we have the champion Crunch. Crunch is our first true bruiser/fighter. He has been S tier for a while now, but because of some matchups shutting him down, he has been downgraded a bit. Still considered one of the best solo guys in the game, he is very much a great pick. His abilities require some learning, and once you have his combos down, you will find the harder matchups to be navigatable. If you're looking for a fun, bursty fighter with snowball ability, please consider Crunch. Next we have the champion Grux. Grux is a fighter that wins lane and tends to have a giant presence when bullying enemies. His ease of use and bleed mechanic often secures kills even for newer players. You have to get creative later in games, but the lead you create and your ability to impose your will in most fights tends to equal a lot of wins. For those who aren't interested in tanks, should take a good look at Grux. Now we move on to Sevarog, the tank that stat checks everyone at 15 minutes if played to his potential. Very reliant on a player who can kill minions with abilities and understand his power spikes and when to rotate. Very strong champion that requires patience in the early game. If your team is selected with scaling in mind, Sevarog may be a great pick to secure the late game. Last in our A tier is Xarus. Xarus is a skill-based fighter that is reliable into all matchups except Steel. Xarus provides good rotations, scales well, and has some very good synergies in team fights. This champion is very much skill-based and has a learning curve to find success. But after you've earned your stripes, Xarus becomes a champion worth recommending. In our next category, we have combined both B-tier and C-tier champions. These are champions that tend to struggle for one reason or another. Typically, these champions can be taken advantage of, have issues with a lot of matchups, or create major team composition issues. If your favorite champion falls under any one of these tiers, we are sorry, but we can't in good faith recommend them to be played, generally speaking, in the top/solo lane. You will find assassins in the B tier. They tend to struggle against tanks and require a good amount of skill plus mastery to make laning viable. Most assassins create composition issues, and unless your matchup is one you can take advantage of, you will most likely fall behind early, which isn't something most assassins can deal with. We recommend that assassin characters like Killari and Feng Mao be played in the jungle role, which will give the freedom required to target squish opponents and snowball. The only assassin players we recommend to attempt the solo lane are ones that have a high degree of time invested into their respected champion and have an appropriate matchup they can counter-pick into. Next, you will find both carry champions and casters thrown into the C tier. Unlike the assassins, casters and carries in most cases have fundamental flaws that make them a liability when going against fighters and tanks, as well as any 2 versus 1 encounters created by the jungler. These innate flaws make playing in the solo lane exceptionally difficult. Some of these include low health pools, low damage early game, lack of mobility, and mana dependency. These traits make early sustained fighting difficult, as well as create massive team composition problems. The only players we recommend to attempt the solo lane are ones that have a high degree of time invested into their respected champion. And even then, you will be knowingly playing with a distinct disadvantage, which we highly recommend against. Well, that's all we got for you today. If you haven't already, smash that like button and leave a comment on whether our content met your needs. As always, don't forget to be blessed, be safe, and until next time, Swifties AI signing out.